Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This is part 2 in my discussion about painting over another artist's work. And here I'm just painting over one of my own digital paintings. So the original is saved and it won't be destroyed, and the new one is also will just be saved as another painting. And as I said before, that a lot of artists will take an original painting they found in a thrift shop and put something in it like that's funny, like a Bigfoot or a flying saucer or the Loch Ness Monster. So I put a bunch of those things. This is one of my Bigfoot from my Bigfoot collection, and also the Loch Ness Monster. I like all kinds of funny cryptid things, the Loch Ness Monster, the Bigfoot, the Mothman, Spring Hill Jack, just all kinds of interesting things. I just find it interesting. I like to look at the festivals at YouTube. But anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about it, about painting over someone else's work, and I've talked about it pretty extensively in part 1, that it makes me uncomfortable when you paint over an actual real original painting, and I would rather that it be a print or something. And again, if you just go painting on somebody's print, you better watch out for the copyright and stuff too, though. So anyway, and I discussed a lot about how some of my relatives that are no longer with us have had their stuff painted over and it's gone now. So that kind of bothers me about painting on originals. And also, you might be painting over a famous artist's work, and yes, it does happen. So anyway, I'm painting the Bigfoot, just trying to get his fur and things like that. I found him on, I think I found this one on Amazon. The Wild Republic, I think, is the brand. You can probably type in a Bigfoot search and he'll come up. He's one of the most popular ones, but he doesn't look like this. I bought the overalls for him and the little hat because Dish Network has Bigfoot on all the time in their discscapes, and you always have to try to find him. And sometimes he's dressed as a gardener in overalls and a hat, and so I thought that was really funny. I like that they had him like that. So I went ahead and got some overalls, some kids' overalls, because he's a pretty good sized plushie, and also a little kid's hat, and put that on him. And the Loch Ness in the back, I think I found on, I may have found it on Amazon, or I may have found it on Temu. And it's just kind of a Loch Ness Monster doll. I can't remember the brand on it, but I think it's, you can probably find it just doing a search on the internet. But anyway, here I'm just kind of working on the overalls, trying to get the folds and things like that on it and stuff. But I just wanted to kind of put this out there about, people painting over other artists' work, that it to think about, kind of just want them to think about that, that artist will never paint anymore. And maybe it was just, somebody doing a hobby. Maybe they were watching the Bob Ross show and stuff, but it was still their own painting. And I don't know but it won't be around anymore if you paint over it. I don't mind it maybe so much if you paint around some of the original elements, but a lot of times they'll go in and just paint out things. Like if there's a deer in there or something, they totally change it to a dragon or something, which is okay. But again, why don't you just paint that scene? Just paint a forest scene. Do a Bob Ross painting yourself. You can learn a lot from Bob Ross or Jerry Arnell or Bill Alexander or some of the other ones that had painting shows on PBS and other TV networks, and learn how to paint that way. It won't hurt you to learn how to paint that way. In fact, it will make you better as an artist. So paint that way. Learn the technique. And then, go ahead and put in your funny dragons, your Bigfoot, your things like that. But it won't hurt you to try. It will expand you as an artist to try to paint a landscape like that, or just a little nice scene. And then you can put in your funny stuff. And I know that part of what started this was somebody was taking Kincaid prints and putting Star Wars in them, which, those are both intellectual properties that you'll get dinged at if you try to make your own prints off of those. They don't get too upset if you have the original, but when you try to make prints, they get really upset. Especially Star Wars is Disney now, and Disney's pretty strict on their copyright, and so is Thomas Kincaid. So I know that it was a novelty, and then it was kind of funny that they were painting over the prints, but they weren't actually painting over original Kincaids either, because they're kind of expensive. Like $1 million. One of them sold for $1 million, I think. So they're not actually, when it first started, they weren't actually painting over the original paintings, and then they started doing this as a fad on YouTube to do that. Grab a thrift store painting and put in a funny thing here, or one of their little creatures or something like that. And again, I don't mind it if you do that on a print, but it just kind of bothers me when you do it on an original. So that's why I was showing that, there's a different way. You can just take one of your digital originals or one of your originals, scan it in, and then do a digital painting over it, or take a print of one of your originals, or just make an original and paint over it because it's your painting. You could do it. Of course, if you've sold it to someone else, you can't alter it. You're not supposed to anyway, without their permission. But anyway, just do something like that maybe, instead of just taking somebody's painting and altering it forever. It just seems kind of final for me, especially just for a joke. And yeah, maybe people say, well, it's just a generic landscape and there's no value in it, but Bob Ross made a living off of doing generic landscapes. And he's very popular for it. And if you look at them, they're not exactly generic landscapes. He just did so many that people think so, but no, they were hard. He had to come up with that painting, and he had to do it, I think, at least 3 times. When he would paint it, he would paint one for how it looked, and then paint one, I think, for his book, and then he would also paint one for the television. So it was a lot of hard work what he did. So if you wanted to paint over one of his originals, it was a lot of hard work. So it's not just quite as simple of a subject as one would think. And see, this is what it was originally. It's the deer. And a lot of people would say, yeah, I'll leave the deer in. we want a beautiful nature painting, and it's silly that you put in a Bigfoot and you destroyed a really pretty painting. If I had done it, you know, um, traditionally, but I didn't. So, um, excuse me, I had to stop and sneeze and cough and have a big allergy attack, evidently. It's March where I'm recording this, and evidently things are starting to try to bloom, and the allergies are really getting to me. But what I was saying was that people would be mad because they would prefer a nature picture instead of putting something silly in like Bigfoot or Star Wars or any of those kind of things. And I get it, it's kind of an Andy Warhol pop culture type of a deal too, but he didn't paint over, I don't think, he painted over other people's stuff. He just kind of painted soup cans and tried to show current things. So, anyway, I'm just kind of working on the Bigfoot's, as in possessive overalls here, and his toes, trying to get his toes right. And because that's the funny part about the Bigfoot, is you always want to emphasize his toes and make it show up. But again, I haven't destroyed my original painting of a deer, so here I'm just kind of making a new painting, really. And that's kind of my point, is maybe just make a new painting instead of painting over something. I don't know, it just, everybody thinks it's fun. Look, I found this at the thrift store and I'm gonna make it funny and stuff like that. And I guess as entertainment value, I suppose that's a high thing, maybe a high entertainment value to do that. But sorry, you'll have to bear with me. I'm about to lose my voice over all this stuff. But anyway, I just think maybe it would be better to use a print or something like that, maybe, instead of just painting over an original. Again, here I'm kind of working on his fur, trying to get the look of his fur here, and they have lots of different kinds of Bigfoot plushies and Bigfoot dolls, and I like to collect a bunch of these, and this one's one of my favorites. I also have one from Build-A-Bear and several different other brands. There's one called Douglas, I think. I have several of those, and just the there's just a whole bunch of different Bigfoot type things, and I like to collect them because I think he's funny and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm just kind of working on his fur and his feet again here, because you want to show his feet, because that's part of it. So, and if I was doing this traditionally, I would not have painted over that picture. I have taken some, once or twice, painted over a painting that I was doing, but it's kind of was the same subject. I just went ahead and painted over it and redid it. So, I mean, if it's your own painting, that's one thing. If you want to take your own paintings and put a Bigfoot in there and paint over the deer and put a Bigfoot, you can go ahead and do that, because you're doing your own paintings, and it's your own thing, and you're still alive, and you can make more. You can paint your original one and things like that. So, and if you do a collaboration with someone and you say, here, I'll paint the background, and you put something funny in it, that's fine, as long as you're both agreed to it, and everybody wants to do that, there's no problem with that. That's just a collaboration or something. So this is the end of part 2 of my Paintovers, yes or no discussion. And in part 3, I'm going to add, work on the Bigfoot some more. I think maybe add the Loch Ness Monster. And just work on it a little bit more. So, if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. And thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions or comments, just write them in the comment section down below. And I will catch you later.